that Chikane died late Wednesday night. Chikane had been unwell for some time and spent time in and out of hospital. Chikane was elected as a member of Parliament in 1994, following South Africa's first democratic election. In 2005, he was appointed as South Africa's ambassador to Germany, and in 2010, he was posted to Zambia, where he also served a full term as ambassador. Chikane played a prominent role in the liberation struggle. He was one of the key leaders of the United Democratic Front and was convicted of treason with Mosiuoa Lekota and Tom Mantata in 1988. Chikane is survived by 5 sons and a daughter, 3 brothers and 4 sisters. Now to talk to us about the life and times of Moses Chikane, we are now joined, we are now joined from our parliamentary studios by Congress of the People leader, Mosiuoa Lekota. Good afternoon to you, Ndate Mosiuoa. Thank you so much indeed for joining us. It is without any doubt that he was your fellow comrade. Him and Ndate Popo Molefe were charged with treason in the late 1980s.
Yeah, good afternoon to you and good afternoon to the listeners. Thanks for having me. Indeed, you are right. We worked with Moss from the beginning of the 80s, more precisely in 1983, when we started the moves to organize for the United Democratic Front in order to oppose P.W. Botha's then New Deal proposal of the Tricameral Parliament and the Black Local Authorities Act. That move, that initiative to set up the United Democratic Front was a major national effort to frustrate the apartheid regime's agenda of continuing with apartheid, even though the people of our country had ultimately adopted armed tactics to impress upon the regime that inequality was unacceptable to the people.
Yeah.
So we worked with him from that time onwards.
And this is, of course, someone who's contributed immensely to the liberation struggle. He was one of the key leaders of the UDF, as I said.
You are very correct. He came from the Mamelodi civic organization and worked with other comrades to mobilize the whole of the Transvaal. One has to remember that what we call provinces of Gauteng, Mpumalanga, Limpopo, and the Northwest, that was one province called the Transvaal. I say that for the younger people. And he became ultimately the provincial secretary of the Transvaal of the United Democratic Front. That gives one an idea of the span of territory he had to traverse in order to ensure that our communities acted as one in opposing apartheid, as well as the colored and Indian communities who were also faced with the struggle to boycott the tricameral elections. And so we worked with him and others in the other provinces until we launched the United Democratic Front in Mitchell's Plain, Cape Town, and then after that, organizing everywhere. It was the work of Moss and others in various communities that led to the dramatic failure or undermining of the apartheid regime's scheme, that those elections of the Tricameral Parliament and the Black Local Authorities became a sham and really failed to deliver a convincing outcome that apartheid was acceptable to our people. A consequence of which we then got arrested and were charged in what came to be known as the Delmas I treason trial, in court days, according to the senior advocates of the time, and in our case, Delmas became the longest treason trial of the country, counting the days which it took. And at the end of it, we were sentenced, at least half of us were found not guilty, half were found guilty. Of the ones found guilty, 5 got suspended sentences, and 6 were sentenced to jail. So we returned to Robben Island, so to say, at least for those of us who had already been there. Moss, through all of that, had carried a lot of fortitude. He always kept the mood among the accused high, regularly, keeping the younger comrades happy, focusing them on the positive side of things. And on Robben Island, he joined with the other comrades and stood firm until we won our appeal, and then we were released. When we came back, he played a very important role in assisting in the setting up of the new structures of the now unbanned ANC, and of course side by side were other organizations, the Pan-Africanist Congress, the AZAPO, and so on. So the mood that resulted was part of what he contributed to immensely.
Yes, yes. So
yes.
You've certainly worked very closely with him, as you said, and he was your fellow comrade. I would imagine you had special personal moments with him. Talk to us about your fondest memories of him and how you think, we should remember him going forward as South Africans.
Well, I've tried to cover, the main issues of the time we spent in jail. It's very difficult when you are in prison and you have younger people around yourselves, because you now have to play also the role of keeping them focused, of keeping their mood positive. And he was particularly good in this regard. And I want to say that once we were out of prison, of course we scattered because we went different ways. But I know that even where he was, while some of us, I went back to Natal because I was responsible for the rebuilding of the structures of the African National Congress in southern Natal and other regions of KZN. But I know that he played a very significant role in the work that he was being done in the Transvaal, together with comrades like Pupo Molefe and others. And we met, of course, at conferences. And when we did meet at these conferences, I always found that he was at the center of things, and keeping the focus of the policies of the party to be pursued. And I must say that it is with deep regret that I must say we can convey our sympathies to the family. We share our sympathies with those members of the African National Congress and other organizations in which he served. And I'm sure that even the missions where he was, he would have been exemplary in the ways in which he did things. And I'd like to say to our people that I hope that his life, his example, will continue to inspire younger South Africans and many generations to come to understand that the struggle for justice is a central piece of life.
All right, we'll leave it at that. Thank you so much for coming through. Co-op leader Mosiuoa Lekota joining us live from our studios in Parliament, of course, talking to us about his fondest memories of the late Moses Chikane.